I'm going to go through this very quickly, and I apologize in advance for that. This is being recorded, so you can get a recording of it and listen to it later. I'll also make the slide deck available to you as a PDF in case you want to dig in a little deeper. What I want to talk to you today is how your local business can become zip code famous using YouTube advertising. So this particular presentation is targeted at local business-to-consumer companies who are looking to grow. If that's not you, I hope you'll stick with me because I think you'll still find a couple of aha moments. I've got a lot of information to share in a very short period of time. I'm not going to try to convince you of anything regarding video marketing or YouTube advertising, but I do hope that you'll open your mind and explore what's possible with me here. So I want to start with a thesis. I've got the better part of 50 years of experience in small business, mostly local small businesses. And my thesis is that for most B2C local businesses, they have certain golden nugget neighborhoods from which they draw most of their business. For restaurants, family restaurants in particular, and doctors and dentists, those are usually the zip codes immediately surrounding their location. That's where most of the families come from and do business with them. For home contractors, they may want to target specific zip codes like Fairfax Station or Clifton or Great Falls or other places where home values are higher and projects are bigger. Real estate agents, if they follow the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller, they will focus on a particular farm and become, let's say, the most famous real estate agent in Kingstown or Old Town. I also have another thesis that most of us as local business owners believe that we need to spread out our marketing message in order to reach as many people as possible. And even if we don't do that, we're leaving money on the table. But I hope to persuade you in the next couple of slides that there's more business in one single zip code than you could ever hope to handle. So I'm going to compare the home value, number of households, and split between owners and renters in 3 zip codes. The first one's in Woodbridge. You can see the numbers in front of you. It's over 20,000 total households, and there's a fairly even split between owners and renters. The next one is in Springfield. You can see the home value goes up. The total number of households is less than half, and the split between owners and renters is quite a bit wider. The last one is in Great Falls. And here you can see another halving of the number of households and an extreme split between owners and renters. Now, if you're a home improvement contractor, the difference between targeting owners and renters is important. If you're a family restaurant or a doctor or dentist, it's not so important. But a couple of things I want to pull from this before we go to the next slide. I've done the arithmetic. The average number of households per zip code here is about 13,000. And the average number of owner-occupied houses is about 10,000. Now, this is an extreme example, but let's say that you were a home improvement contractor that had a golden nugget neighborhood that you pulled 2 jobs a month out of. Now, anybody on this call who's in that line of business knows that's a lot of work. If you were able to do that every month for 4 years, that would be 96 jobs. If you multiply that, let's round that up to 100. Times your average dollars per project. If your average dollars is 5,000, that's 500,000. It's 10,000. It's $1 million in 4 years. That, my friends, would qualify for a golden nugget neighborhood. But what does that really mean? Now, in terms of what type of potential is still available just in that one zip code. If we rounded that up to 100 clients, and we say that there's an average of 1,000 owner-occupied houses in each zip code in Northern Virginia, that's only a 1% penetration, market penetration. And that's pulling 2 jobs a month for 4 years. If we again assume, and you know what happens when we assume, but I'm doing a lot of that here, I guess you noticed, that another 5 times of the people who bought from you have actually heard of you. Only 5% of the people in that zip code have ever even heard of you, which means 95% have never heard of you. But what if you could take that 5% level of market awareness, and which is 1 out of 20, and turn it into 1 out of 4 people who are your prime targets, homeowners in a given zip code who had a certain income level and a certain interest in something particular that Google knows all about? Would that be something you might be interested in learning more about? Now, the way this was done back in the day was blanketing television ads. There were 3 or 4 channels. If you paid to have an ad appear at the beginning of the 6 o'clock news on all 3 or 4 channels at the same time, you would reach almost every television viewer in the DC area, which is great, but there are a few problems. Really costly. The ad only ran once. And you're reaching a lot of, let's say, renters when you didn't want renters, or men when you only wanted to target women, or people in Gaithersburg when your restaurant's in Newington. You name it, there were a lot of downsides. And the same thing when I call it coal lump neighborhoods. That doesn't mean anything about income level or anything like that. It's just not who you want to target with your marketing dollars. Nonetheless, a lot of companies have built huge businesses using advertising. I know it's hard for local businesses to relate to these companies. They have huge budgets, ad agencies and ad departments, but they started small. And they focused on the long term of building their brand rather than short-term lead generation. Now, there are also local companies who have followed the same path, who, again, have focused on long-term branding and blanketed the DC area with television and radio ads, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process. But what if there was a way to spend a fraction of that amount of money and target only your ideal prospects in your golden nugget neighborhoods, run ads of any length, and start and stop on demand? Well, you can do that by becoming zip code famous with YouTube advertising. You can target down to the zip code. You can even target down to a radius of 1 kilometer around a point on a map. You can target people based on home ownership, the amount of money they make, whether they're male or female, whether they're interested in home improvement or crafting or you name it. The length of your ad can be from 6 seconds to 15 minutes, and you can spend as much or as little as you'd like, as little as $5 a day, and you can turn the switch on and off whenever you'd like. I want to show you different types of ads and different results that I've received recently. First is the type of ad that you've seen and you're probably most familiar with. It can be any length, as I'll demonstrate in a minute. You can click this button in the lower right corner to skip the ad after 6 seconds. You can click over here to click through to my website if you'd like during the time that the ad is appearing. And up here is a banner that remains on the screen even after the ad ends, or you click to skip it for the remainder of that video you're watching or until the next ad appears, which is another thing that you can click through on to go to your website or landing page. Now, I recently ran one of these ads. It was 1 minute and 11 seconds long. Over the course of 10 days, spending $10 a day. I generated over 10,000 impressions. Of that, 41.48% of the people who watched the entire ad, which added up to 116 hours of total view time. And I spent less than $100, which worked out to 2.4 cents for every person who watched 100% of my ad. Bumper ads are one that you may not be as familiar with. They're up to 6 seconds and they cannot be skipped. They're great for branding and they're really cheap. I recently ran 9 bumper ads from my ad agency to top 40% income earners in Northern Virginia. I got 15,412 100% views for 0.38 cents per view. You may not be aware of this either. There's something called a graphic overlay ad. It's only an image and it will last on the screen for 30 seconds and you can click through on it. Very cheap. Recently ran $10 a day for 7 days. You see the numbers, 312 click-throughs at 23 cents cost per click. This is a testimonial interview that I used as a YouTube ad. It's over 15 minutes long. I got bottom line at the bottom just to save the time, and I will share this screen deck with you. 327 prime local prospects spent over 15 minutes each watching this entire video about my client telling them how great my company is for 10 cents each. I have no time to share a lot of other great stuff like remarketing, which has to do with retargeting people that have already watched your ads, how to go from branding to lead generation using YouTube advertising, what types of videos you should produce and what stories to tell, or any industry-specific strategies. But I would be happy to share that with you. I posted in the chat a link to a portfolio of 25 plus videos I produced in recent months. Happy to do a free 20-minute Q&A call, or you want to do a one-to-one, that's fine. And I will share with you, if you schedule a meeting with me, what the richest zip code in the whole state of Virginia is.